for today, which is going to be with JK. He's back onto the stream. Let me just pull up his fabulous card. So he's going to be talking about how to go from paper to power using the Azure Form Recognizer. I think we've kind of already done intros, but I will leave you be and take over your session. Enjoy the rest of your talk.
Yeah, so I'll be kind of continuing on from the previous conversation about community. Let's see if I can get my screen shared. Awesome. Move this one here, move that one here. And I'm going to talk about how to get from paper to actual digital power that you can use to basically automate things or just make entry of data much simpler than just taking the paper and entering everything manually. Just move this just in case if it's visible. So as mentioned before, I am Jernej Kavka. You can just call me JK. I'm SSW Solution Architect. I am a Brisbane AI MVP. You can follow me on Twitter, GitHub, my blog, LinkedIn. And I'm also one of the organizers for the Global AI podcast with Akansha Arafat, and lost one, sorry about that, as well as APAC AI and also the Brisbane Full Stack User Group, which just happened 2 hours ago. So by day, I'm focused more on .NET Core, EF Core development, but I also work on cognitive services, ML.NET, and I try to bring AI to the customers so they basically start to think about, oh, wait, we can automate this and then add a little bit AI, have a human verify this, and then you save a lot of time. Anyways, if you're interested in cognitive services, I have Cognitive Studio. I can show it maybe offline. It's a really cool tool if you want to try to play around with cognitive services. And what I'm going to do with today's talk is talk about how do I got started in Form Recognizer, what did I do to make it work, and if we have time, I'll see if I can show you how I also enhance the Form Recognizer as well. All right, so I'm coming from a company, SSW, which does a lot of events. And what we're trying to do at the end, we're trying to get feedback from people. We give them a physical paper, not as much right now, but we're going to continue this tradition once everything is in person. And then what we're trying to do is we're trying to get digital information out of those papers so that we can know whether the presenter was good, if there's any issues with the venue that we have and stuff like that. And the current flow that we had up to until I fixed it with Form Recognizer is we do a presentation. At the end, we ask participants to fill out the feedback forms. Then our admins scan that, upload to SharePoint, so it's nice and secure. Then we do a summary of feedback. So somebody actually goes through all of the physical feedback. And then we destroy the papers so that you don't have to worry about the privacy. And when time permits, we enter those in CRM. Of course, the ones that allowed allowed us to share the email, we only save those in the database. For everyone else, we just store the data points, how they were happy, how on average everyone's happy with the events and what was their feedback. And this is quite a manual labor intensive work. Like it takes 1 hour to scan and do a quick summary for our regular events before COVID. Right now it is faster, unfortunately, in a sense, but we hope that we're going to go back to a point where doing manual labor won't be practical anymore. But if we want to have a more usable information, where we can say how happy we're with certain events and what were the issues on certain events, or what were the good things about certain events, it takes up to 3 hours of additional labor to get that done. And, when you multiply this with all of the events we have a lot of events in different cities. We have the different kinds of trainings and all of that stuff. And that amounted in a lot of paper to go through. And we almost needed a dedicated person for that. So, yeah, here you can see big stacks of paper, really big stacks. So what I tried to do and succeeded is basically try to automate all of this. So what I did is I went to Azure Form Recognizer, and basically they're kind of two parts. One is where you can use the pre-built models like receipts, invoices, ID, cards, then tables inside the forms. You can actually just use their APIs and you get back data that you can use directly. You don't have to do anything fancy. You just can use their APIs, you get the JSON, and then you just scout through the JSON. It actually recognizes tables and receipts, so it gives you some semantic knowledge about those kind of documents. But in our case, all of that was custom. So we needed to use custom form recognizer. And what that means is that you can use your own form, your own documents to train it to tell, say, this is a name, store this as a variable name, or this is a description, or this is the feedback on the presenter. So you can train that because behind the scenes, they do a OCR as well as machine learning on the locations of the OCR so that it knows roughly where relatively should all of the labels be for the data you're looking for. So it's quite interesting if you go into depth how that all works, but unfortunately I won't have much time and still need to get the person for that to tell me more in details how that works. And it's done in two phases. One is training. We will use a application in browser to just select the labels we want, train them, and that's going to generate a model behind the scenes, and then the usage. Once you have the trained model, we can use an API to then get the data out of the model. So to get started, you can go to Azure, create your own Azure account. You don't have to worry about too much about paying. They do ask you for credit card, but you do have the option. By default, they won't take any money. You have to explicitly say that you allow it. It's more basically that you don't just create a lot of free Azure accounts. I recommend you to have PowerShell core, Azure CLI, so we can use Azure in PowerShell, and Azure Storage Explorer. Now, I have built a automation script. You can download it over here that automatically creates all of the resources you need because this allows you to get started in about 2 to 5 minutes, where previous demos took more than 30 minutes to get set up when I did step by step. So it cuts down a lot of work. And I think it's going to get better once they figure out all of the stuff. And what is happening here is, here's the create custom form recognizer. You can put here the name that you want to have on Azure portal. Then you can do your storage account, that's Azure Blob Storage, which resource group you have, how long you want to keep the connection between the form recognizer labor trainer and the blob storage. So for instance, if you do demos for people, you might want to have it short. And the installation type. So that is a cool thing because the tool that I'm going to show you lives on GitHub You can also use it as a Docker container on your machine. You can even download it. You can download it via GitHub, run it as npm, or you can just use the pre-existing web page. So there are different ways of running it, and I just added all of them in this tool. And once you run this, at the end, it actually gives you the instructions on how to continue. It took me a while to get that right, but it actually tells you which values you have to copy into the label tools, what tools you have to install, and stuff like that. So hopefully you'll find this very useful. All right, so let's go into the demo. So what I'm going to do, and I just realized that my desktop actually turned off before I came home. So I need to get Notepad, custom form controller, and I need to open up Windows Terminal. I had that already yesterday. And what I'm going to do, so I'm going to copy this, paste. I'll run this. I need to go cd /data jk git, and I think, yes. So this is now going to create all of the resources from scratch in our Azure portal. So this is going to create the form recognize cognitive services. It's going to create all of the storage account you need. It's also going to create course configuration, getting the temporary tokens from storage accounts. So there's a lot of things that it's happening behind the scenes. And I'm going to use the installation web, which is the simplest one, because once this all is running, I can just run this website over here. And to get started, I go new project. I say virtual tour demo. Now here, what you need to do is you can actually pick an existing source connection, but you probably won't have. You do add connection. I'll call it POC number 2. And what you do is you go back to the console application and you copy this part. Now, sometimes this is not generating correctly. You can just go to Storage Explorer, which I had it ready earlier before as well. And if I quickly, come on, you can do it. You can do it. I believe, oh, where's the right one? Here you go. Just blend, blob storage. If it ever happens that SAS token is not generated correctly, you can just go to get shared access signature, click all of that, and create and copy the URL that it gives you. I won't do that here, just in case that this tool, it does sometimes fail. I'm not sure why, but in case if it does, that's the solution for it. So I'll save this. Once you have the connection saved, you get into this page, and this page is not particularly useful. You need to go back home, new project. Now it's going to remember all of the stuff we've done before. I go back to the console, and okay, we have folder path is dash. Then form recognizer service URL is this. I essentially just copy paste all of the stuff. You don't even need to go to the Azure portal. And if you still need help, I actually put a link to the blog. Now, I think, is it going to be successful? Or did the SAS did the SAS configuration failed me or not? Yeah, maybe I have done a little too many configuration here, so I'll cheat a little bit and reopen it. Sometimes if you do this demo over and over on the same storage container, it may fail. Just a forewarning, but usually it works just fine. Anyways, so what I have here is what you get when you start with the label recognizer. Now, the only thing that I have done is I went to the Form Explorer and I uploaded all of the forms over here. So all of the forms are being automatically for me OCR recognized. And if we go back to the storage, you can see that these OCR, optical character recognition, are stored in these JSONs. So you can see which one have been already processed via the Azure Blob Storage. And to use this, and excuse me for blurring out the content just for privacy sake, what you can do to label things is, for instance, I want to label this part. So this is position. And in my case, I already have created a label. So I just click over here. And for today's topic, I click the text that I want. And I click on today's topic. Where are today's topic? Here. And that's how you do it. For instance, if there are more, I can click more of them. And that is, what is your main takeaway? What is your main takeaway? And basically, that's what you do for all of the papers. Now, right now, you have support for text, tables, and labels. But unfortunately, at the moment, it's still in works for detecting checkbox and radio boxes. So that's something that is coming up. And if you need more tags, you can create over here, and you can also remove them. Once you have configured all of that, I have here quite a couple of them, but I won't show them because of privacy reasons. You go to train, and we train. And what happens now is it generates a model that we can then use to call and basically use in production. So this should take about 30 seconds. And while we wait for this, we can already see some accuracy over here. Now, the reason why the accuracy isn't that great, or at least doesn't look that great, is because not all of the data has been entered. That's one thing. And the other thing is not all of the entries that users entered were legible. So that's why your accuracy may vary. But because we can see here that the numbers are nice and round, usually it's because they don't enter it. All right, now this is trained. Let's go to the usage. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to desktop, and I am going to use this one, which is one that I use for testing. I'll run analysis. And this is roughly what we get when we're trying to recognize things. Now, this form is deliberately a little bit bad, so that I can show you a little bit of caveats that you need to watch over. For instance, you may notice that our lines are actually dots. And that sometimes recognizes as actual dots, not as a line input for text. And what I found fascinating is, for instance, in today's speaker, for instance, it actually recognizes the thing that they tried to cross out. That's interesting. I would not imagine to be able to recognize that, but it does. So you can see that it's pretty accurate. But for instance, if we look at the infrastructure as code with Graphis, you can see that it does a little bit struggle with the last word, but to be honest, I don't know what that is either. So it tries to do the best of what it can. And we can also see some interesting issues, for instance, more details on infrastructure as code. So you can see that there's a lot of things that even humans would get it wrong. So it's not like that you can just run automatically and just make everything enter for you and everything's going to be perfect, but it can save you a tremendous amount of time entering like 80-90% well, and you just do small fixes rather than entering everything manually. Believe me, it's a massive pain, and this saves a lot of time, even though you have to do some manual fixing. And that's the demo. So, oh, and if you want to use it, you have Python scripts and stuff like that. I won't go too much into details for that because I don't have a lot of time, but I'm going to show you how you can actually use this real quick, how you can get up and running a prototype real quick. And that is via logic apps. So what I'm doing is I basically built a logic app, well, now Microsoft Flow, where you basically make a trigger, saying that you use your phone, you take a photo, and then you trigger a flow on your phone to upload the image. And then you can actually trigger the events to recognize all of the data on the form and then upload it to SharePoint or wherever you want to have them. So for that, I am going to go this one. So sometimes in the future, we'll be able to use simple commands like this. So we will be able to get all of the models. You select the models, and then you can recognize all of the data from the models and then very easily extract all of the data and then push it somewhere else. Right now, this is deprecated, but I hope they will bring it back, mostly because the ones that are currently in, they are for preview 1.0, as far as I remember, and current version is 2.1. So hopefully they'll resurrect this soon. But do not fret. You can still use this, just a little bit more steps. Because what we're going to do here is we're going to do a manual trigger. So imagine you have your phone, you have a button on your phone, you press it, you take your picture of the paper, and it will automatically trigger this flow. Here we have a HTTP request where you put your file as body. I have hard-coded the model ID. You get this ID if you're interested when you press F12, for instance. Open. You go network and you run analysis. You should be able to find it over here. So essentially, just copy this thing really into the flow. Now, the only trick here is once you do that, the response you're getting back is basically an ID that you need to wait for. So it's in the in the header. So in the header over, we are hiding header. Was it that one? Except that, yeah, that one should be it. Yeah, operation location. So this is giving you a URL that you need to ping to see whether your form has been completed. And what I do, not to go too much into detail, I am just looping through, making requests to that URL. And once I get a positive response that, yes, the status is succeeded from the JSON that we get, then I'm starting to parse the JSON schema. I just copy pasted the schema and put it over here. And then I can start doing actual flows against that data. This is a little bit difficult right now, not that difficult, just a lot of steps in Logic Apps. But in the future, we're just going to be able to have just a couple of actions, and it does all of this for you. So in the end, all you'll need to do is go through all of the documents and then just say, hey, do I have a sentiment tips? And what is the sentiment for what do you think? And then we can quickly do conditions. If either of them is greater than 0.5, send me an email with, yay, everyone's happy. And if it's less than 0.5 of either of them, you can say, something is wrong. You might want to have a look into the feedback. So you can then start, doing flows, say, making sure that everyone's happy and stuff like that. And action issues much more quicker. You can then flag this email and address it later. All right. So yeah, here's the phone app that I showed you for Microsoft Flow. You can click on the form recognizer over here. You can then upload the image. And then you can see here that it's been processed, and you can even check out the results in the phone. But in this case, you will just received an email. Now, if anyone wants to try Cognitive Studio, something that I'm trying to make it open source available for everyone, and hopefully you'll be able to explore all of the cognitive services in this tool. I have done a beta support for a form recognizer, so you can actually upload your custom form recognizer model and upload an image, and then you can get some of the labels out and how accurate it thinks that the data is in. So what I have learned is basically from all of that experience is that handwriting can be as challenging for AI as it's human. The form recognizers works really well for printed text. So all of I have had was handwritten text. And I solved the initial lengthy setup. But one issue that really bugs us is the dotted lines. So next form has to have solid lines. And checkboxes are not yet supported. Now, I've been told that I have only 3 minutes, so I'll just show just a very quick tour of what I did for recognizing checkboxes. I thought, how hard can it be? Well, I won't go full story. I went with custom form recognizer and ML.NET. I used analyzed documents like the analyze that is more general purpose to get the bounding boxes of each individual labels. So here you can see labels being marked. And then based on those labels, I was able to figure out where are the checkboxes based on relative distances and sizes. I cut them out with some automation, and then I used ML.NET Model Builder to do image classification. I uploaded all of them, started training, and it was very accurate, but you needed to have a nice cutout of the checkbox. And then I went through all of the forms, and it was like 80% accurate, which it took me 2 weeks to make it work. But it's a homegrown solution, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm sure that Microsoft team is going to get it done better. Still some bugs in it, like not really finding the boxes correctly and stuff like that. But I'm happy for now. It's pretty nice that you can actually combine cognitive services with custom machine learning to solve problems that the cognitive services doesn't solve that yet. And yeah, I am ready for post-virtual user groups. Hopefully we'll get them a lot. And with that, thank you. Do we have any questions?
I don't think we do at the moment, but feel free to hop into the chat just because we are on time for the next session. So we might wrap that up there, and we will get David on board. Thank you so much, JK. We really do appreciate it. And that was a really good kind of a real full-in detail of the form recognizers. It's very handy to have.
Yes, it was very interesting. I'll stay behind the scenes and let me know if there's any questions while David's preparing.
Perfect. We'll jump over now, and we will get